everyone, I'm Drew Goldfarb. Welcome to this post-All-Star edition of Betting for the Cycle, where we're giving you 4 picks for upcoming baseball games, matchups, or prop bets, and trying to go 4 for 4 to bet for the cycle. So here's how this works as a refresher. I'm going to be posing 4 potential wagers or daily fantasy comparisons. Our experts and I will each give you our picks and rank them based on how confident we are in the outcome. Least confident pick is the single. Most confident pick, of course, will be the home run. We're each going to have a pick that we consider to be a home run, a triple, a double, and a single each and every week, giving us a chance at betting for the cycle. Our individual stats are being tracked all season long. You're going to see those pop up on the screen as well. This week, as every week, joined by Taylor Smith and Jim Baviglia. We should start this week by congratulating Jim for being the first of us to complete a cycle. His pick of the Chicago Cubs to lead the NL Central at the All-Star break gave him a 4 for 4 performance 2 weeks ago. So Jim, a little applause for you. Very, very well done. As far as this week goes, let's start with the first game back from the break. Only one game scheduled for Thursday. Texas Rangers hosting the Houston Astros. Which team do you think picks up the win on Thursday? Taylor, our resident Texan, will go to you first.
This one's real tough, as any single game pick is. We have Framber Valdez scheduled for Houston, Lance Lynn for Texas. It's in Arlington. Lance Lynn's been all-star caliber this season. He probably should have been on the team. But Framber Valdez is a lefty. The Rangers are a lefty-heavy lineup. They rank near the bottom of the league in most categories against left-handed pitching. And on the other side, Hunter Pence, who has somehow been like an all-star caliber player for Texas all of a sudden this year, is on the IL. I think that matters. He's like the one big right-handed bat in the lineup this season. I don't love this pick at all. I'm making it my double. I'm taking the Astros on the road.
Jim, what about you?
Yeah, single games are tough. I'm actually going against Taylor on this one. I'm going to go with Texas, only as my single. The Lance Lynn factor was what did it for me. I mean, quietly, he's been one of the best pitchers in baseball over the last really month and a half, starting June 1st. 53 strikeouts, 4 walks in 47 third innings. Those numbers are just ridiculous. I am a little bit concerned about the Rangers against a lefty, but I'm thinking maybe Lynn's talent kind of outweighs that. So I'm going to go with the Rangers at home, and I'm going to only make it my single.
So I get to break the tie. Well, because it was the first game after the All-Star break and because it's a single game pick, I'm going to make it my single as well this week. I'm actually going to take the Texas Rangers to win this game, even though Houston is very clearly the better team. Astros 6-4 against the Rangers this season, though they're 2-4 in the games that are played in Arlington. All 6 of those road games for Houston came back in April, so it's been a while. Lance Lynn, the confirmed starter for Texas, has been great this season. Lost to Houston early in the year. Still 4-2 against the Astros in his career with an ERA below 2.25. Also, he's on a 4-game winning streak, including wins over Cleveland and Tampa, each of them in playoff positions at the moment. MLB.com hasn't quite confirmed Houston starter, but yeah, ESPN, CBS both say it'll be Valdez. He's notably not Lance Lynn, also not really a starter. He started just 4 games and 18 appearances this year, none since June 8th. Astros 1-3 in games he starts this year on the road. He's allowed 10 earned runs in under 18 innings pitched, has a sky-high whip, and he's got a strikeout to walk ratio that's 4-3, which is not good. I want to end this by just saying, but I'm not going to overthink this. So Houston, because it's probably what I should do. But I've overthought this. I'm taking Texas to win the game. Consider it an all-star hangover for the Astros. It's going to be my single. And plus, that pick probably makes Taylor mad. So, that works too. For question 2, let's look ahead to a weekend series. Washington Nationals and Philadelphia Phillies separated by a half of a game as of the all-star break. Each team holding on to one of the 2 National League wildcard spots. They'll play a 3-game series in Philly this weekend. So, Jim, which team gets the series win and ends the weekend with a lead in the wildcard race?
Yeah, this is an interesting one because there's a lot of kind of contrasting stats here. The Phillies have been really good at home. Nats just so-so on the road, but the Nats have been the much better team over the last month or so. The Phillies pitching matchups, they're kind of up in the air. I'm assuming we're going to see Aaron Nola in one of these games because he last pitched Sunday. So that's a good thing for them. But then after that, their rotation's really in shambles. Meanwhile, the Nationals are lined up. They have Strasburg, they have Corbin, they have Scherzer, their big 3. I think that's where you really have to weigh this one. I'm not crazy about the fact that it is in Philly, but I am going to go with the Nationals, and I'm going to make it my triple.
I'm also taking the Nationals. I'm going to make it my double this week. ESPN only has one of the 6 starting pitchers for the series confirmed at this point. That's Max Scherzer going for the Nats on Sunday. CBS says he'll face Jake Arrieta, who's been very disappointing this season. CBS also says it'll be Strasburg against Aaron Nola on Friday, which that just sounds like a lot of fun. And Patrick Corbin against Zach Eflin Eflin on Saturday. Phillies have a great record at home. They're 27-17 this year, though the Nationals better against their in-division opponents. If Scherzer pitches this weekend, that's a win for Washington. Saturday's projected starters should favor Washington. The Phillies are 7-10 in games started by Eflin this year, including dropping 4 of their last 5, 7 of their last 9. Nats 10-7 in games started by Corbin, have won 4 straight. My confidence is lower in picking the road team for the matchup, especially since the Phils are just fantastic at Citizens Bank Park this year. So I'm going to make it my double. Washington, double. Final answer, not moving away from that. Okay, not moving away from that. Taylor, who do you see picking up the win in this series?
I'm going to make it a clean sweep, but I'm going a bit higher on the confidence level. I'm making this my home run with Washington. You guys touched on it. Strasburg, Corbin, Scherzer in order this weekend. Regardless of how the Phillies line up, they're at a disadvantage. Nola and Strasburg potentially on Friday is obviously kind of the toss-up game. The Nationals have actually been playing up to their own talent level so far this season, which is nice to see since they were such a letdown last season. Even without Bryce Harper, they still have a stacked roster. Philly, kind of like the Nationals last year, just they have Harper. They haven't been playing up to their talent level. We all thought they'd be much improved. They've been fine, just not running away with that division the way some thought they might. It does give me pause in Philadelphia, but not enough to not make it my home run.
All right, one more series pick this week. It's an interleague matchup. If the season ended today, the Boston Red Sox would miss the playoffs. Meanwhile, the Los Angeles Dodgers were the overwhelming favorites to win the NL pennant this season. They were plus 100 at last check to win the National League. This weekend, they'll face off for a 3-game set at Fenway Park. Can the Red Sox pull the series upset, or is this one all Dodgers? I'm picking first this time, and I'm taking Los Angeles. This is going to be my home run pick for the week. As of this recording, it's unclear who the Dodgers' probable starting pitchers are for the series, depending on where you're looking at least. ESPN says the Red Sox will send out Eduardo Rodriguez, Chris Sale, and David Price. CBS projects LA to counter with Kenta Maeda, Ross Stripling, and Clayton Kershaw. Kershaw against Price sounds amazing. Since we can't know that those will be the pitching matchups, however, we have to go with the teams. Dodgers are 60-32 this year, the best team in baseball. Boston, meanwhile, just 20-22 at home this year, which sounded surprising to me when I looked that up. They're a below 500 team in games against teams that are not members of the American League Central. Also mind-blowing. Sox 19-19 against the AL East, 12-12 against the AL West, 2-3 against the National League. Very small sample size there. Since the Dodgers aren't the White Sox, Royals, or Tigers, I've got to think LA wins the series, so I'm going to go with the home run, make it that high confidence pick for the week. Taylor, what about you?
So we had Ryu, Kershaw, and Buehler pitch in the All-Star game on Tuesday night. I'm not sure how that affects this weekend. I imagine they have enough days off to where they should be fine. Plus, they all only pitched 1 inning. I'd be surprised if we saw Stripling and Maeda again. I just think the Dodgers would be doing well to start the second half with their aces on the mound. Facing 3 lefties isn't ideal. The Dodgers, most of their potent hitters are left-handed. You got Bellinger, Muncy, Peterson, Verdugo, etc. But, you know, it's a World Series rematch. I think the Dodgers might be out for a little bit of revenge. Even on the road, they've been the far better team this season. The Red Sox, I don't know what it is about them. They can't get back on track. That can certainly change in the second half, but just based on the balance of the season, I got to take the Dodgers and make it my triple.
Jim, are you making it unanimous? All LA?
No, I'm going to be the contrarian here. I'm going to go with Boston. Even though they have been kind of weak at home this year, they did play better before the break. And I do think the pitching matchups are important here because I would be surprised. I mean, the Dodgers have no reason with the lead they have no reason to really push those guys after they pitched in the All-Star break. So I'm going to guess that we're going to see Maeda and Stripling in that series. And then you've got the Red Sox with their kind of top 3 lined up with Rodriguez, with Sale, with Price. And so I think that kind of leans it in Boston's favor. I think there's a bit of pride here for Boston on the line. I think they want to come out and show something to start the break. So, like I said, I'm going to be the contrarian here, and I'm going to go with the Red Sox. I'm going to make it my double.
All right, well, last one to complete the cycle. We're doing another long-term pick. They've been pretty fun so far. As we sit here today, hours after the 2019 MLB All-Star Game, which I correctly predicted, there are 10 teams holding down playoff spots. The Braves, Nationals, Phillies, Cubs, and Dodgers in the NL, and the Yankees, Rays, Twins, Indians, and Astros in the AL. There are teams on the cusp of a wild card or even a division lead that are currently on the outside looking in, including at least one or two big name teams. So pick one team that is currently not in a playoff spot that will be in a playoff spot when game 162 is in the books. Taylor, you're up first.
So I was going to take the Red Sox here because that makes the most sense, but I want to try and be a little bit bold. So I'm going to take the Padres. They're only 2 games out of the second wild card spot in the NL. We talked on our second half preview show the other day about how if they can just get on base a little more, their offense should be lights out. They're 10th in the league in home runs, yet 20th in runs scored. They're 25th in on-base percentage, and they lead the league in strikeout percentage, meaning they're the worst at striking out, the best at striking out, depending on how you look at it. So if they can find a way to just get a few more ducks on the pond for guys like Renfroe and Franmil and Manny Machado, they should be pretty potent. I'm a little nervous about Chris Paddock potentially being limited in the second half. They've already sent him down once for rest purposes, but they have a solid bullpen behind him. The NL is pretty weak as a whole. Like, there are tons of teams still in the picture, but they're all kind of hovering a little above the 500 mark. This doesn't make me feel good, which is why it's my single, but I will take the Padres to sneak into a wild card spot.
A bold pick, and yeah, you should definitely check out that video here on the Odds On Favorites YouTube channel if you have not yet so far. Taylor and I broke down baseball as it sits at the unofficial halfway point. Jim, are you going to go with the Padres, or are you going in a different direction?
Well, I can go with the safe choice, but I'm going to make it my homer, so hopefully that balances it out. I'm going to go with Boston. I really wanted to take a National League team because I feel like the teams that are up there in playoff spots right now in the National League are far more vulnerable than the American League teams, but I just didn't feel confident about any of the National League teams. I thought about St. Louis because I think there's going to be positive regression there, but then the injury to Ozuna really hurts them. I just think Boston, they have the big 3 starting pitchers who I think are all headed for positive regression in the second half, especially Sale and Rodriguez. I think they have still one of the best lineups in baseball, and with Christian Vasquez hitting the way he's been, that just deepens that lineup. Jackie Bradley's been starting to hit the ball as well. I see Cleveland as being vulnerable enough there that Boston could maybe sneak past them, and I also think Tampa Bay's a little bit vulnerable. And you've got the experience. I mean, they're the defending World Series champions. So I'm going to go with Boston. Like I said, it's probably the safe play, but I'm going to make it my home run.
My pick is also going to be Boston. I'm going to make it my triple. The obvious play here, the other obvious one in the National League, at least in my mind, would be the Milwaukee Brewers, since they're only a half game back of the Cubs in the NL Central and a half game back of the Philadelphia Phillies in the wild card race. So very little ground to make up for them. But their run differential is just not good and scared me away. I really wanted to agree with Taylor with the San Diego Padres, since they've been a home run machine this year. The only issue is that no one is ever on base for those dingers. 2 players with 25 or more home runs and fewer than 50 RBI on their roster right now. Their 590 non-home run hits is the second fewest in Major League Baseball, despite being top 10 in the league in home runs. But the Red Sox have a few things working for them. Their record should get better the farther away they get from that 5-10 start to the season. Since April 18th, the Sox 44-31. They're tied for the most runs scored in baseball right now with 509. Since April 18th, that run differential on par with that of Houston, ahead of Tampa Bay, ahead of Cleveland, ahead of Oakland and Texas, also competing for the wild card spots in the AL. If there's a team outside of the postseason right now that I'm the least ready to write off, it's the Red Sox. So I'm going to take Boston as my double. But as Taylor and I discussed in that video we were plugging a moment ago, ask me again in 4 weeks, because by the end of this month, I may very well be ready to write off the Red Sox and kind of sacrifice that triple. So we will see how that goes. Interesting pick with the Padres. A lot of potential there. Who knows? We will see in a few months' time. Before we wrap things up, we're checking back in on our World Series picks. I've got Atlanta at plus 300 to win the National League, Minnesota at plus 450 to win the American League, Twins now betting at plus 400, so I'm keeping the odds I've got there. Braves still at plus 300. The Dodgers, the only team I would consider really shifting to in the NL, but their plus 100 odds offers absolutely zero value in my mind to pick them, so I'm going to keep my matchup as it is. Taylor, you've got the Astros locked in at plus 180, the Dodgers at plus 170. Just mentioned LA now at plus 100 odds, so you've got a really good bet locked in there. Houston is plus 170. Houston now sitting, or you got Houston at plus 170. They're now sitting at plus 130, LA at plus 100. Any changes that you want to make here? Because you've got basically a beneficial version of each of the teams that you've selected at this point.
Yeah, I'm kind of surprised the Astros have shifted so much just because they've kind of struggled over the last month or so. But I was kind of considering taking Washington and Tampa Bay out of the American League or National and American League just because the value right now is so good. Washington, for example, I think plus 950 to win the NL pennant, but I'm going to hold off for now. I'm going to stick with what I have. It just seems like the safest picks in my mind. So I haven't seen enough of a value shift to get off the bets I have. I'm just kind of worried about moving away from LA because by the time I jump back on, they could probably just be a minus favorite or something like that.
Very fair. Jim, you locked in the Yankees and the Dodgers. Already went over LA's movement. The Yankees were plus 230 when you locked them in. They're now plus 150, so good value on your end for the Bronx Bombers. Any changes you want to make, though?
No, I'm going to stick with it. I'm still worried about Houston in the American League upending the Yankees, and I think if one of those teams gets a prime starting pitcher come the trading deadline, I think that might tip the balance one way or the other. I don't think the loss of Stanton for however long that is really affects the Yankees too much. I think it actually might help them a little bit because their defense is a little better that way, and they already have plenty of power. So I think the Dodgers are solid. It's interesting. Washington is very interesting at that price, but I worry about just one of those starting pitchers goes down, and it's a big change for them. So I'm going to stick with those teams. Again, the Yankees are the team I'm a little iffy on with Houston kind of lurking in the background, but I'm going to stick with what I have.
That'll do it for this week's edition of Betting for the Cycle. Be sure to check back next week where we'll show you the stats of how we did and give you our latest picks. For Jim Bavili and Taylor Smith, I'm Drew Goldfarb. Thank you so much for watching. See you next time.